Good morning, and thank you so much for watching right now. It is 9 a.m. here on this Monday, June 22nd. We are streaming live here on the CBS 8 app, and we have a lot of stories to get to. We have everything here from the latest that is going on in negotiations between Iran and the U.S. Jack Holt joining me as always, as well as we had NASCAR here over the weekend. We have World Cup to catch up on, a whole host of things. And oh, by the way, we didn't have a show on Thursday and Friday, so we're catching up on a lot of things here on this Monday morning.
Yeah, a lot of catching up. 4 days off. A lot can happen in 4 days. A lot can happen in 1 day. Oftentimes we sign off and everything changes. And so we get ready for the next show trying to break down what happened in such a short time frame. And this was one of those times. You know, we were able to touch on this throughout the week yesterday or last week on that Monday through Wednesday schedule that we were at. But it really is the Iran deal. It has been the biggest thing that we've been hearing about. Of course, J.D. Vance, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, they have been in Switzerland to talk with not just Iranian negotiators, but mediators from Pakistan, Qatar, to break some of this down. And we were able to hear from the vice president himself today about a lot of those negotiations.
Yeah, we did. And look, this is something that we obviously set the stage for. We anticipated this happening on Friday. I believe the deal was actually signed, I believe Thursday, but it was signed in separate. We had President Trump in France at the G7 summit at the Palace of Versailles, go ahead and signing his, and then the Iranian president signing their own version. Let's get caught up here, though. We have our CBS's Natalie Brand with the very latest here in a sort of condensed piece, and then we'll break out a lot of these elements.
Vice President J.D. Vance wrapped up an 18-hour negotiating session with Iran.
We made a lot of good progress. We did exactly what we wanted to do.
As part of that progress, the vice president says Iran has agreed to allow nuclear inspectors into the country, and they've established a communication channel to ensure the safe passage of commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz and prevent misunderstandings.
We actually set up the coordination mechanism so that we could demine the Straits of Hormuz, so that when there are the conflicts that inevitably come up, we can make sure we work through them rather than that leading to escalation.
The two sides also established a working group to address the fighting between Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah so it doesn't derail the peace process.
Over the weekend, President Trump posted on social media that Iran needs to stop its proxy group, saying if they don't, we'll hit Iran very hard again. Iran's parliament speaker responded, saying they better be careful with their statements. Our armed forces are ready to respond in another way.
If Hezbollah fires at Israel or if Israel responds, if there are other conflicts that arise in the region, we're actually talking to each other and figuring out how to stop the shooting, how to make the region safer, our allies and everybody else.
Democratic lawmakers call the deal a surrender.
Iran gets all of the benefits, literally billions and billions of dollars, and America continues to hurt and see the losses from the $100 billion we spent in the war to every American citizen seeing their costs skyrocket.
The Treasury Secretary says as part of the progress made in negotiations this weekend, it's lifting restrictions to temporarily allow the sale of Iranian oil. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Yeah, and back out here live. Look, there is a whole lot that is going on, and it can feel a little bit like a marathon and trying to keep up with what are a lot of these deals that are sort of being agreed to upon in real time. Obviously, we've seen J.D. Vance has been speaking with the press, but we're going to do our best here to sort of break out, roadmap everything that has been agreed to, but then also sort of what some of these conditions are that are still underlying. We know Lebanon. Obviously, the fighting that is going on there that has taken a pause is going to take a big role here. Israel as well, too. There's all of these different factors, Jack, that are playing into sort of the future of these talks.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of the things that we have talked about as this conflict has continued and as the initial first phase of the negotiation, which at this point, you know, if we consider this the next step in it, that first initial step from the first ceasefire that was agreed to about a month or so, riddled with conflicting reports from U.S. officials, from Iranian state media about what these conditions are. And again, you are seeing this continue. So as we're talking live, it's important to preface a lot of the things we say that there is still a lot of work of moving parts. What's important to know now is that these initial talks between the United States and Iran are over. This was a 2-day agreement to meet, to be able to get the first steps in what this 60-day memorandum of understanding is to work on a later, more permanent deal has gone through. But now we're going to see more of the minute details being worked out at this point. So with that being said, things can still change at whatever it is. Yeah, let's break it down. Like we mentioned, they agreed to what is essentially a roadmap to work towards a permanent deal. That includes a ceasefire. There's some video right there. There's J.D. Vance with mediators from Qatar and Pakistan. We know that Iranian negotiators intentionally decided not to be present with them. It was a much more discreet appearance, more behind closed doors, but that was them. You're hearing the Prime Minister of Pakistan right there speaking on behalf of all of the negotiators there, talking about it, grabbing a microphone there with J.D. Vance. After we heard from J.D. Vance himself in a press conference with reporters there in Switzerland at this resort, talking about what this means. We want to play his comments here right now before we really take a deep dive into the content.
We laid a very good foundation for a successful final deal. The final deal is the house. We set the foundation. We haven't built the house, but we've laid a successful foundation to get to a good place for the American people. I think it's important for all of us to appreciate how much was done, but honestly, there is still a lot to do as we continue to make progress on the nuclear talks, on the economic talks, as we continue to demine the straits and ensure that that flow of traffic continues to pick back up. A lot of progress, but still some work to do, and we're very committed to doing exactly that.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of this happening at a time where some people may be distracted, not have obviously all of the information. So let's go through. He's talking about this as a foundation, which I think is very key here. Roadmap, another term that is being used. So as he pointed out here, we are not quite there at the finish line, but they have made some concessions. They have made some agreements, so we can kind of go through them. They did agree to establish a high-level committee to provide, quote, political oversight on the mediation with working groups focused on, this is the big one, obviously, nuclear issues, sanctions, and a monitoring and dispute resolution group. So essentially, they're going to kind of have this political oversight group kind of work on kind of coming together with key points on this. They did agree to allow 4 IAEA inspectors back into the country. That you just heard there from Vice President J.D. Vance, who relayed this as well, too. This was something that was a pretty key deal. We have not seen those inspectors in since obviously the JCPOA, where similar inspectors were used as part of that deal. Mm-hmm. It's also another reason why many people have been saying they very in critics of this deal, or again, nothing that has been obviously formalized here, but critics of the proposal of this deal have said, look, this is a lot of similarities to what we saw with the Obama-Iran deal, which was negotiated over 2 years. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing this kind of all take place in the hopes of 60 days.
Yeah. Yeah, so. A very expedited roadmap. And then also one of the things that you mentioned J.D. Vance there say in that soundbite that we just showed you is the Strait of Hormuz. There was initially over the weekend some conflicting reports as to whether or not it is open or not, as we have known. But the Iran and the United States, our latest reporting says that they had agreed to set up communication lines to keep the Strait of Hormuz open and end the fighting in Lebanon without a contact channel, or with a contact channel created to, quote, avoid incidents and miscommunication. And like you mentioned, there have been conflicting reports on a lot of this stuff. Is that because of incidents and miscommunication? Very well could be a reason for some of those that we've been hearing over the past couple of weeks. And Vance said that the U.S. set up a deconfliction mechanism aimed at preventing clashes involving Israel and Hezbollah from spiraling into the wider conflict. That, of course, has been one of the key things we've been keeping an eye on as this is taken out. There was an emergency session that was done at that point during, I believe it was the first day of negotiations yesterday, because there was a renewed round of fire that was taking place on that line. We've heard Benjamin Netanyahu say that they intend to stay in that southern zone of southern Lebanon that we've seen them go up to since we saw this conflict renew. And that has, of course, really been one of the key sticking points as these negotiations have taken place, because while we had seen agreements between the U.S. and Iran directly, this other conflict that, of course, is viewed, at least from Iran's perspective, as part of the wider conflict. They see, an attack or a renewed round of strikes from Israel, and they view it, and they say that the ceasefire has been violated. And the U.S. has taken a more, these are two separate entities approach to it. But again, another key piece of conflict.
And I think that's something that we pointed out earlier last week as well, too, which is that Israel does remain the wild card in all of this. We have heard, and there has been a number of reporting. In fact, Vice President J.D. Vance was faced with this when he made his round. He made a series of media appearances as of late, promoting his book, but obviously coming at a time in which there's very serious topics to talk about. And one of them that stuck out with me was he was asked pretty bluntly about his and President Trump's popularity in Israel. This is in the New York Times Opinion podcast where he sat down and was asked, this, and said point blank, the interviewer, this is a deal that is not popular in Israel. And again, in large part because of, the motive behind what they are doing in Lebanon in regards to Hezbollah. But then also the idea that, we could be pulling out of Iran before the job is finished, so to speak. Again, remember, Israel very key in Operation Epic Fury and kind of, again, getting that ball rolling, so to speak, with President Trump. So I still think that this remains a wild card. Lebanon, in terms of how cool things can remain there in southern Lebanon in terms of there not being fire, because we already saw just over the weekend how quickly we heard about Trump's tirade, his messages that he was sending. And I can't imagine being Vice President J.D. Vance, right? Like maybe in the midst of these negotiations or, having to contact the Iranian negotiators to try to calm things down here when things are escalating beyond your control.
Of course, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis in Yemen, all three of those militant organizations do receive Iranian funding. So when you hear Israel talk about this and you hear Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu talk about this, a lot of what he's saying is this is a direct attack. And I do, because it is essentially by proxy Iran. So that's what you hear them say a lot. That of course, you mentioned the wild card, a lot of stuff. We know that hours after those strikes that we just mentioned, CBS News did report that Israel and Hezbollah had reached a ceasefire agreement. The stability of that, of course, is always in question. We're going to keep an eye on the evacuation from those zones that is on the southern portion of Lebanon that borders with Israel. Another thing is that the IRGC affiliated Tasnim News, they reported that citing people close to that Iranian negotiating team, that no nuclear negotiations had taken place so far in Switzerland. That is contradictory of what we had heard from Vice President J.D. Vance. Again, we mentioned a lot of conflicting reports, but we do know that to be continued talks here this week. Marco Rubio is going to be including what are these like lower level negotiations, particularly on Israel, Hezbollah. You're going to see Marco Rubio play a critical role this week when it comes to working out that side of it. But we have a few days here to see what these higher level issues are going to be, at least building up the framework, because we mentioned the nuclear negotiations that hadn't taken place yet. That is critical to it. You mentioned UN oversight. All of these different aspects are going to be important. We've heard reporting earlier, we're not entirely sure what the state of the negotiations are now, that the United States was seeking a pause of nuclear development of any kind for 15 to 20 years. We've heard Iran retort with 5 to 10 years. So, that's a significant difference that you're seeing there, anywhere from 5 to 10 to a 15-year gap in what they're proposing for each other. What is that going to look like over these next 2 months? Is that achievable in 2 months? You mentioned the Iran nuclear deal during the Obama administration. That was a 2-year negotiating process. Are we able to see something expedited in that time? That's the real question.
And I don't know if the prior conflict and the remember that the JCPOA was not negotiated in the fog of war, and I guess I don't mean the fog of war in that literal sense that the term has been used for, but just that we are quite literally coming out of a conflict with Iran. We have obviously economic pressures about getting a deal done, whether or not this administration will admit to that. You have polling that shows a new CBS poll. That shows that those surveyed believe the U.S. should end the conflict now. 78% of them. This has not been a popular war and conflict, however it is that you want to define it. since its inception.
And as people who look at polls a lot of times, seeing a 80-20 split is very, very rare to see. The only thing that you see pretty much universal approval on is the disapproval of Congress or something like that. Like, it is very rare to see an 80-20 split on any political issue nowadays.
And again, this is likely, again, those who respond to polls, very engaged, informed people, and could also include those who are not. But regardless, this has been something that is very unpopular. So this is occurring at a time in which there may be pressures to speed things along. I mean, we'll have to see, right? We could be sitting here 2 years from now still talking about the negotiations ongoing, several checkpoints hit, ceasefires, and so forth. We don't know yet. But what I will say is that this has been it feels like a very swift back and forth here as of late, especially considering what just happened with the Strait of Hormuz. It reminds you how quickly things can escalate here, because Iran has seemingly they've known that they've had this economic power of shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, but they seem to be much more willing to use it. Yeah. And remember, they have said that, back to the nuclear thing, they have said that was going to be a civil program. This is for civilian power. Obviously, intelligence reports do not believe that they have also built ballistic missiles and so forth, like with the intent of arming them and then having that nuclear arsenal. So, but they will claim that they would like to resume the production or the ramp up 5 to 10 years, but for their civil program. Yeah. But obviously, reports are that U.S. and as well as other countries' intelligence agencies don't believe that. So.